Okay, so we're back in. All I've done between the last scene was just paint a little bit of the mud to get rid of some of the grass along some of it. Obviously, not all of it's worked. So I'll show you what I did there. I just kind of came in here and used these paint layers to get rid of some of the grass on the edges so that it's a bit cleaner. A little bit's fine. I can't be bothered to go through it all. But yeah, essentially what we're looking at now is the intersections. There are various ways of dealing with this. I'm just going to get rid and just put that into the grasslands folder so it's nice and clean. So there are various ways you can do this. You can manually drag in an intersection, which I will show you in a moment that you can do that, but there is a kind of more organic way of doing that, which is, I'll tell you what, all of the tabs we've visited I will start to leave open because it's more like what we would have seen before. So now what we're looking for is the option to add in a intersection. So you can go through all these and it's kind of a bit confusing and it's not really clear, but it is in this snapping one. So with the snapping tab open, you can basically see, it's quite obvious, we have this option here for spawn connected intersections. Pop, we click that and it will automatically add a connected intersection to either end of the road. So that means, you know, if you don't remember, then you'll end up just having one at either end, which might be a bit annoying, but you know, if you press that button you will have one at either end, so you might have to come over and delete one if it is at the end of your road and you don't want that. Let's say it's at the edge of your map and you think, well, actually I don't need that. That might be the reason that you would bring in one automatically. So before I continue, I'm just going to delete that. You also have the option to drop in an intersection BP, which is exactly the same thing, except it just doesn't come in spawned automatically. Now the point of that auto one is that you might have a section of a road that only has one end that's open and not connected, so that button does make it better. But I'm just going to show you basically the other method and how you connect them. Before we do that, I'm going to just prepare this landscape area and just flatten it a little bit because it's a bit bumpy, and maybe before they build the road they would flatten the area and prepare the area. So I'm just gonna flatten it to, let us say, moving a bit quick again, let's just say I want the target to be, you know, about there. So I'm going to just flatten this area off, make it a little bit more natural of a flatten, create ourselves a little laid area for our intersection. So we have our intersection. We know here that this is a 4-lane, so we're going to go into our meshes, roads, 4-lane, and we're going to look here for like something that we want, and it's kind of worth, I would suggest, just looking through, maybe just bringing them in to see whether or not they are what you want, because sometimes looking at these images isn't very clear. It is the same deal as the road piece. You find where it goes and you drag it in. Now the intersection BP is a lot simpler, a lot less tabs going on. You have a utilities one which has some different options, a snap to floor option, which is pretty handy, especially if you've got a nice flat area. things like that. We won't look at the rest for now. We will just continue with adding in a intersection piece. So I want the road to go to continue on our 4-lane, almost like a main road kind of style. It's a pretty big road, but it's like a 2-lane, 2-way. So like this maybe is, you know, right as southbound, northbound, or whatever. And I want it to be, you know, have a little offshoot, sorry, an intersection that takes it off maybe to a 2-lane. So maybe you go through and you start looking, you think, okay, that doesn't seem right. And it's kind of just finding the right one for your desired need. And in all honesty, that it's going to be hard to find the exact thing you need all the time. So you might need to kind of either completely make your own set of these, or find a way of manipulating it into what you need. Basically, that's kind of, you know, what if you just want to use these assets themselves, that's kind of what you're going to have to do. So with this, I'm just going to show you kind of an option that you have. You know, we want this road to continue. We don't want to what am I trying to say? We don't really want to spend any more time like talking about custom stuff, so I'm just going to use what we have. So let's just say this is the intersection we want. How do we connect it? It's actually very easy. You know, you can spend some time kind of perfecting this, messing with the snap options, so that you get some, oh hang on, rotation options, so you get some finer detail. There is a way making it really fine, if I remember correctly. Okay, that would be fine. And you know, you can start playing around with this and trying to get it accurate as hell. But what you want to do is you want to come back to your spline that you want to connect, grab the node that you want to actually join to it, and you want to come down to that snapping tab on the road BP. You got this little snap button here. You click that, it will just basically grab the nearest node of an intersection and perfectly add it to the mesh, connect it to the mesh. Now you can see that these materials aren't really perfectly designed for each other, but you know, you can go through that yourself and kind of find the right one. Now it's connected, maybe you would like to spend some time going through to find the right one for it, because it's connected now, and if you were to manipulate it, your spline would kind of come with it, which is great. But you know, now you would go through and you know, find the one you actually want. So there is also, you know, oops, you don't want to do that. There is also a lot of options that are worth sort of looking into. Now this is actually more like the one I was wanting to do, where we have a 4-lane going into a 2-lane side road sort of thing. And sometimes it's worth looking into these other folders. You know, let's just say, you know, I was looking in the 4-lane and I wanted a 4-lane going to a 2-lane, but it's not in there, so it's, you know, it's worth going into the 2-lane and sort of going through and seeing if they've got what you need. So this is more like what I actually intended to go for. So yeah, you could then obviously bring in, at this stage you want to continue the road, you could then drag this BP in, reset it to the road, rotate it, do the snap tool, etc., which in some instances might be ideal. But one little thing which is really handy on the intersection BP, which I'm going to quickly add into our Snappy Roads folder, you have a connect tab, which these are kind of self-explanatory. Disconnect allows you to disconnect it from the spline. Connect connects it to the spline, which it didn't. Maybe I'm thinking of that incorrectly. So I'm going to snap that back. You see that little green thing pop up, which means it's correctly snapped. Yeah, I have to reevaluate. Oh, okay, I see. The connect didn't work because I didn't determine what it was going to connect to. So you would have to determine what it will connect to, I guess, and then press that button. Anyway, that didn't work, so I'm not going to bother with that one, because you can just snap. We'll figure that out. Maybe in the comments you can tell me what that means. But yeah, we have the spawn connected roads button, which then creates roads attached, pre-attached to the nodes on the intersection, which you can then grab your parts, and continue your road system. And then it works kind of the same as before. You need to go and then find your road that you want, replace it, and your system continues like before. So I am going to go like this. Grab me some road there. I kind of want it to do a bit of an arch curve up the hill and round the rock and disappear off in that direction. Right, so let's just say that's what I wanted. Okay, and we can see here we've got this quality difference, which is why you might want to change the preset value. Now I need to match them, you know, relatively decent. Even though the values are different, the roads are different lengths, so that's going to matter. And now we don't have this connected properly, so you can either snap it, or if you was to move, which I'll show with this example, if you were to, you know, have this connection, if we were to move this slightly, it would automatically snap it. But sometimes you don't want to do that, so the snapping option is sometimes better. This road obviously doesn't fit, so we need to then find a road that does fit. It is a 2-lane road, so let's just try the standard 2-lane road. And that seems to fit nicely. Okay, so this is gonna go off into the distance with a slight bit of interest added to it. We don't want it to be a boring road, do we? So there's that. Okay, and then we can start messing around with some of this stuff, you know, project the spline, tell the landscape, tell the tool what landscape it was. We choose a value of 22, auto width selection, and then boom, do the deform. And then you would obviously, you know, oh, I didn't do any fall off, so let's do a fall off of 1000. Press deform again. There we go. We have a bit more of a natural blend. Save our thing because we don't want it to mess up. And we look in here and we have no snappage, so we're gonna have to re-snap it For some reason it didn't like that. Reapply our deform. This seems to have gone a bit crap, which is no good because now it means I'm going to have to go through and resculpt, which is why it's probably good to get your blend perfect before you hit that button. And obviously you might have a better solution than me to blending it correctly. But really what I actually figured out is that I would do the complete system before I do like a sculpting session. So I kind of, this is kind of what this is the stage I get to before I go in and take away the center part. That way I can make sure that it's all, you know, looking pretty decent. And that's kind of where I get to. So really that is, you know, the most basic level of it. To be honest, like there's not much more to it. You can get as complicated as you want with it. And it gets more and more complicated. There is some other things I want to show you, such as like how you might do more in-depth intersections, things like the highway stuff. It starts getting very starts getting very complicated. The video, I can imagine, is getting a bit long and boring, so I've kind of done it in sections for us, which I'm hoping will make this a bit more tolerable. Okay, that's way too heavy for what we need. So this is why I do the fall off to be quite exaggerated, and we don't want it to be like super deep. We want this to be like 0.5 maybe. Because the problem with this is like you can hold it down, but then you end up with this like fat divot, you see, that starts doing that. So there's probably, you know, a better tool for that. Some kind of spline editor, I guess. Like what would be sweet is if the tool was relative to the edge of the spline as opposed to this road's width. And it had some kind of inner taper, but obviously that is a bit more complicated. But that's something that I think the dev would probably do well in doing, so that this manual work is lessened. Is that a good word? Yeah, is lesser, I should say. One thing you can do, I mean, if it's a perfectly flat terrain, which this isn't, then you could just do the flat and, you know, set it to a flat target and go bum, 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 all the way through at one height. But perhaps just flattening to a target would be a bit safer for the majority of the road, especially if you're going uphill from the original value. You can see here we start getting problems, and this might be that we need to use not as wide a value, so we avoid. Actually, that was fine. Basically, you just want to avoid messing with the terrain too much, so the edge stays nice and blended. And you're kind of going to just have to mess around with it to kind of get it perfect. You might have to introduce some other assets to kind of blend it. It's not going to be perfect, and I am rushing to kind of do it, you know, to a half decent standard, just to kind of get you in the gist of it. Oh, that's definitely not high enough now, so we need to find a lower value. then that. So I'm going to pick there. And then this should disappear. Oh dear. It's quite a lot. So yeah, like I actually opt to do the sculpt with a really low value of like 0.3, between 0.1 and 0.3, and I just kind of go through it manually like this. And just try not to be too harsh. I am going to just rush it because the video gets longer and longer the more I do these kind of things. And I don't particularly like doing that kind of skip and then suddenly it's done in front of you. You know, I think that you should see the process to fully understand it. A lot of people don't really care about that. They're like, well, I know what you're doing. I just want to get to the juicy bit. But see, the beauty of YouTube is that you can fast forward it if you don't want to go through this. Some people might get a benefit from this. Therefore, I leave it in. And those impatient folk, understandably, you know, because they know already, they can skip it, which is the beauty of YouTube and videos and stuff. If I was a teacher in front of you, it'd be a different story. But this is kind of just showing you real time the process that I kind of go through. With this specific tool, anyway. That'll do. Anyway, so yeah, we've got this, and it's I'd say it's half decent. I'd say it's a pretty good, a good look. You know, out of the box. It's not the best, but it sort of works. It's quite far away. Let me where's that player start? There you are. Let's put you over by the road. Whoa, wait, whoa. Let's put you down over here. Somewhere like this. Plop. Okay, see we got a few issues. Still haven't blended it, but that's a case of coming in, testing it. Oh my. So why is that? Let us see. It is probably to do with collisions. Some kind of collision setting. Update collisions. Oh, enable collision. There we go. Update. So maybe I can now walk on it. Yep. There we go. That's not so bad, is it? Still not perfect, of course, but it's a lot better than just the automated process. There's still quite a bit of a gap. I understand, but we do have a road with collision, and it's all right. It's not so bad. First glance, it's like really good, I'd say. Yeah, so there we go. Let us say